TV. And he didn't really touch on the matches so much against Jinro, other than the fact that he questioned what your thoughts were on leaving earlier on in, I believe it was Game 3. But the series, looking at it as a whole, you've had some time to kind of reflect on it. What were your general thoughts on that series?
Well, obviously it's just terrible luck to get close positions on both Maeda and Shakuras. I could have played better on Shakuras, but those positions it's really, really hard to deal with that push. You saw it again in MVP versus Nesty today. It's just Terran is able to secure themselves so easily, and it's so hard for Zerg to engage in that little choke. Yeah, so that was tough. And then obviously Maeda close positions. I think that's actually closer than Steps of War, plus worse terrain. So when I saw the SCV come in timing on Maeda, I kind of just was like, well, whatever. Let's hope the other games go better. The first game, he's always been a big fan of that Marine Hellion pressure into Banshee build. So I kind of knew he was going to do it at some point in the series. And when I saw him making extra Marines and putting down the factory with my drone scout, I was pretty sure that's what he was going to do. So I just made the Roaches, which are a pretty hard counter to it. Took control of the early game and was able to turn that into an easy macro. Jungle Basin, well, 5 HP Marine. One more hit, and he loses it.
Is that going to be a nightmare for you always? You're always going to think about the 5 HP Marine that made it to the bunker?
Not really. It's Jungle Basin. I'm not supposed to win.
Now, one thing that caused, I don't know if it's so much controversy, but a lot of people are talking about the fact that in the post-game interview, and you guys actually cannot go and see this unless it's up on YouTube somewhere, because GOM removed it from the interview that's currently up as the VOD right now. Jinro was saying that he heard the commentators get really excited. He could hear them kind of raising their voice in the very early start of that game. Do you think that had any effect on that game whatsoever?
I don't really think so, because the only thing that changed the outcome of the game was the fact that he accidentally canceled the Marine and then rebuilt it later so that the bunker was finished immediately when the Marine got there. And, I mean, I guess it's possible, but if he really heard the announcers go, wow, and then from that decided that I was six-pooling, and then realized that the best way to deal with that was to actually cancel his Marine, I just don't think that's what happened. That would be an incredibly high-level response and an incredibly illogical, counterintuitive kind of thing. So I'm pretty sure it had no effect on the outcome.
Now, in terms of the general soundproofing, have you ever heard, or do you ever hear the commentators over there? Because I've never actually been inside of one of those booths. I understand from kind of my understanding just from watching on the streams that there is a screen of some type that kind of has, I think it's a Blizzard logo on it, and then a door there that I believe is just a regular soundproof door. But have you ever heard the commentators on there, specifically the Korean ones, obviously because Artosis and Tasteless aren't on the loudspeaker?
Well, with the soundproofing, or the sound blocking, is mostly the fact that they have big speakers in the booths and they just pump StarCraft music through them, and it kind of drowns out everything else. And obviously, I've seen some people actually saying that there's just a curtain in the back. No, it's an actual booth with a solid wall and everything, so that blocks out sound too. Occasionally, you can hear the announcers there's a little lull between the soundtracks when the next one comes on, or when one ends and the next one comes on. There's a little lull there. Occasionally you'll hear something, but it's not a big deal. I mean, we'd like to avoid it, but it's actually pretty hard to get real soundproofing.
Now, does that constant blaring of the StarCraft music at all annoy you? Can you guys hear that pretty well, I guess?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I don't like it. It bugs me, but there's nothing you can do about it.
Now, going to the round of 4, spoiler alert, guys, we're probably talking about these matches pretty in-depth, so if you haven't watched them yet, if you haven't watched the VODs, go watch those and then come back to this portion of the interview. But first game, we'll just go game by game, match by match. We had, as I'm stumbling through this for some reason, Nesty against MVP, and going into it, I think on the interview with Artosis, you said that really Nesty's a great Zerg, which another sub-question, a while back you said that he really wasn't all that special. What you got a little bit of a flack on the forums about that. What changed your impression of him?
Well, players can improve. He did. Even even when he won GSL, that run, it wasn't particularly impressive. I just felt it was mostly due to bad opponents and a little bit of luck, and I didn't really think he played that well himself. And since then, he's played very well. He's really, really good at holding up cheese, which impresses me a lot because no other Zerg is. And he just plays kind of a solid macro game, which even Fruit Dealer has given up on at this point, so I respect that quite a bit. And obviously he got to the finals, or no, he won it, then he got to the round of 8, then he got to the round of 4 again here. That kind of consistency is very rarely a fluke. So, yeah, he's earned respect at this point.
Now, touching on tonight's matches, Nesty against MVP, when he initially took Game 1, did you think he had any inkling of a chance to win that entire series against MVP?
Not after Game 1. Halfway through Shakuris, I thought there was a small chance. but no, the first game was just MVP kind of doing a silly build, and, like, I don't know, going out and attacking with once your opponent already has mutas out is just not a good decision. I don't know what he was thinking there. It was just kind of a bad build that Nesty took advantage of well.
Now, I kind of touch on the Shakuris Plateau game. I believe it was against Jinro. In your match against Jinro, you ended up taking out the rocks, and the map that Nesty played, he could have taken him out earlier, and then MVP came up and sieged the tank there, left the rocks undestroyed, and used his marine used the medevac to elevator lift the marines up to high ground. Is that pretty much the sole reason why you take those rocks down? Do you think if Nesty would have done something like that, he would have been a lot better off in that situation?
No, in both games, I think our decisions were based on who we were playing. Jinro is a much more passive player. He likes getting his third base up and playing a slow macro game. So I wanted to take those rocks out so I could go down there and prevent him from establishing a third there. Because if they get that up, then you're pretty much screwed. Like, you can't do anything about it once they have a planetary there. But MVP is much more of a two-base aggression type player. He took his third really late in every game. He was always trying to go and kill them off two bases, and obviously Nesty's on his team. He knows that. So the rocks are played to his favor. They slow down the push. So I think the decisions were right in both cases. It just turns out that Terran is really good, so we lost anyway.
Now, moving on to Game 3 and 4, are there any really specific points in those games that stand out that you want to comment on?
What map was Game 3?
Now you're putting me on the spot. Game 4 was, I want to say,
Jungle.
That was Jungle. Game 3 was... Oh, Christ, I just watched this.
It was blistering. He just did two racks.
Right. Yeah.
He just got 2 racks and got the block up on the ramp, and that was it.
Now, here's a good question. In your match against Jinro on Metalopolis, you left pretty much immediately after he did the double bunker. Nesty had a miraculous hold-off from that first double bunker with the spine crawler barely living transfusion. It was epic as all hell. If you haven't seen it, definitely go watch it. But at that point in the game, I mean, if you were Nesty, would you have pretty much done the same exact thing you did against Jinro? Was it over for Nesty at that point?
Well, it was over, but it was worth playing out. He went fast expansion, so he had Larva and the opportunity to build a spine crawler on the other side of the bunker. So that meant he could flank it, and obviously could have the spine crawler there. Also had another queen down there to kill the SCV. And Blistering Sand's rush distance is at least 1.5, probably 2 times as long as Meta close positions. So you saw MVP send more SCVs and Marines to reinforce the position, and they got there too late because it was far away. If that was close position Meta, they would have been there in time to finish the second bunker and just end the game. So, no, Nesty had a better build order for it, and it was a better map for defending it. So, obviously he ended up behind anyway, but it wasn't lucky Banelings on that Marine push. He still would have been in the game. He would have been okay.
And Game 4, probably the one game where you could hear nerds all around the world moan and groan when the Mutalists just continued to fly over the stemmed Marines down below about halfway through. Do you think if a lot of people were saying in the chat when that happened, if Nesty hadn't lost those mutas, or I mean, even if Nesty hadn't lost the mutas, it still was pretty much a game that MVP already had won. What are your thoughts on that?
I tend to agree. I actually didn't see when the mutas flew over the Marine pack. I just saw people going crazy and then looked back and all those mutas were gone. A friend said he only lost like 10 or 12 mutas, and that definitely, well, against like 30 Marines, that's not going to do anything. Like, he still would have lost that battle.
Right.
And once Terran takes control of the center like that, I think he still would have lost anyway.
All right. Going on to the next game then. Jinro, of course, kind of rub it in, I guess. Defeated you in round of 8, moved on, and played against MarineKing, who had a crazy-ass series against Nada in the round of 8. It was a 3-0, but go watch those games. Games 1 and Games 3 were probably the most entertaining games I think that the GSL has put out to date. But going to the round of 4, Jinro MarineKing. Again, Jinro taking Game 1 and putting kind of everyone's hearts aflutter, thinking that he could actually end up winning the whole damn thing. Looking at the Banshee control throughout the entire series and just kind of how Jinro has gotten from when he first got to Korea to where he is now, what do you think is really the one thing that's helping him improve so much?
And the biggest thing I noticed with him is he actually took the time to learn how to play a solid game. Like, so many Terrans were just sitting there using the flavor of the month all in, like Marine Rush or Reaper all in or whatever. And Jinro sat there and lost 2 GSL qualifiers because he was trying to figure out how to play a macro game with Terran. And now it's paying off because Terran's really strong in a macro game, but very few other Terrans know how to do it. And so he's taking advantage of that, and it's paying off.
And looking at MarineKing's style, I mean, he is... I don't know if he has brass balls or what, but he doesn't really... If he's being attacked, most players obviously are going to send their forces back and stop the people attacking him. His style of play is, well, I'm just going to counterattack you and take out all of your unit-producing structures, and it's made for probably some of the best TVT series thus far, and really making TVT, at least in my opinion, a standout matchup right now. What do you think of his style?
Yeah, when your macro isn't as good as your opponent, you can't win the battles, so it's better to try and turn it into a base race. But if it's not something that the opponent's just going to invest a little bit more in scouting, or it's not a good thing to do. Like, it's a way to give yourself a chance to win in games that you shouldn't, but 9 times out of 10, the person with the bigger army who's actually like controlling the game is going to win anyway. It's kind of a Hail Mary. It's like, please let him not be prepared for this because I'm about to die anyway.
And really, one last question on that series. I know you said you didn't pay too much close attention to it. You were kind of back and forth. But, I mean, did you think Jinro could take that at all, or was MarineKing's style just kind of going to win him later on, or throughout the entire series with that super aggressive style that he has?
Jinro certainly could have won. I think he's the better player than MarineKing, generally speaking. But MarineKing is a bit more abusive. Jinro wasn't really prepared for it, and yeah, that's how it goes. So, but no, I definitely thought Jinro could win. Yeah.
All right, and of course, the final is coming up here very soon. Don't know the exact date. I want to say probably a week from now. Generally, they take a week break. MVP against MarineKing Prime. Obviously, people are going to say MVP is going to win that. I'm sure you will too. But does MVP have a chance in that, does MarineKing have a chance in that, or is MVP just too damn good?
No, MVP is going to destroy him. And I think too. MVP's just way better. Yeah, and I'm sure